What's up, everyone? It's Friday, June 18th, and we are live. I'm Paul Wontorek. What?
It's Thursday.
It's Friday to us because we're not here tomorrow. It's Thursday, June 18th. I'm Paul Wontorek.
I'm Beth Stevens.
We're joined, as always, by she's cracking up, Caitlin Moynihan.
I was literally thinking before we went live, you forgot to ask Beth what day it was. You always do. And I was like, I guess he knows what
right.
day.
I always do, and I was so confident because we take Summer Fridays very seriously here at Broadway.com.
Yeah, that's right.
So we will not be here. So this is kind of a end of the week capper, which is why we have an amazing guest. Beth, who is here today?
Oh, we have such a good guest. Tony Shalhoub is here, the Tony winner himself.
Yes.
Applause, please.
So fantastic. Loved him in so many things, but we're going to get to see him on TV. Back on TV it's a Broadway TV combo special.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a crossover. But first, let's talk about today's news.
Today, we are saying huge congrats to our dear friend, Danny Burstein.
And there he is in Moulin Rouge. Danny Burstein won the Drama League Award for Distinguished Performance. Now, normally the Drama League, Paul, you know this, they nominate a whole long list of people.
I know, it's huge.
And normally it's a big event where everyone goes and sits for hours and hours, and there's one winner, and you can only win once in a lifetime.
That's right.
Danny Burstein has won for this year, which is amazing. And of course, he was just here with us, so I feel like, we were in on it a little bit. And he's a 6-time Tony nominee, and now he's a Drama League winner. Of course, they also give awards out to productions. So outstanding production of a play, revival, musical, and that went to The Inheritance, A Soldier's Play, Moulin Rouge, and Little Shop of Horrors. So lots of good news today with the Drama League.
Yeah, it really felt like award season, right?
It felt like award season, but without sitting there in those chairs for like hours and hours. Yeah, no rubber chicken dinner. Yeah.
Yes, and BCEFA is putting on a special one-night streaming presentation.
Yeah, so this photo is a photo of a really talented group of men who came together in, what year was that, Beth? Was that 2014, I think?
It was
2013, I'm sorry. David Drake, our friend David Drake, a friend of the site, he did this incredible solo play in the 90s, which is like a big launching show for him. It's called The Night Larry Kramer Kissed Me. He recently wrote an essay about the loss of Larry Kramer. And he did this, it was a solo play originally, but he did this cool Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS benefit in 2013, where he made it for a bunch of performers. It's a bunch of monologues. So he kind of broke it up. So now you're going to get to see it. If you weren't there, and you probably weren't because it was a small theater and it was a sold out event, you can watch this
6 years ago.
On June 28th at 7 p.m. And it will benefit the Provincetown Theater, which is a great little theater on the tip of Cape Cod. And David Drake is the artistic director. And I saw his production of Sweeney Todd there last year. So I actually know of what I speak. So anyway, listen to this cast. David Drake, Andre DeShields, B.D. Wong, Robin De Jesus, Rory O'Malley, Anthony Rapp, Wes Taylor, Chad Ryan, Donald Shorter, Aaron Tone, Brandon Cordero, and Claiborne Elder. So
I think they're all in that picture.
Yeah,
they're all crowded together. Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to be a fantastic streaming event, and you really should check it out. It's a really special show.
And we may not be able to go to see Shakespeare in the park this summer, but we still are going to be able to experience it.
I love this. That's Andre Holland, of course. Andre Holland, who's been on Broadway twice. You probably know him from the movie Moonlight, but he was on Broadway. He was Youngblood in that gorgeous production of Jitney. He was also in Joe Turner's Come and Gone on the Broadway. He is going to start as Richard II. So Shakespeare in the Park is teaming up with WNYC, which is our local NPR station. And they're going to do a 4-part radio play of Richard II. So just wait, because I got to read the rest of the cast because it's so insane. Felicia Rashad. Like that's secondary, but it's not secondary. It's Felicia Rashad. Estelle Parsons, John Douglas Thompson, and Dakin Matthews. So Shakespeare in the Park, of course, is canceled at the Delacorte Theater in Central Park. But you can gather around your radio, and if you don't have a radio, which you might not, you can stream it on WNYC.org. So this kicks off for 4 nights on July 13th through July 16th.
Awesome.
That's exciting. Yeah.
Yes, and this cast is getting together to say L'chaim once again.
I was waiting for the L'chaim joke. I knew she was
I like your
say
ch and your L'chaim.
if she didn't do it, I was going to do it. So that was the cast of, remember when the Yiddish Fiddler on the Roof was a huge hit off Broadway?
yeah.
It won the Outer Critics and the Drama Desk Awards for Best Revival. So the cast is reuniting to sing some songs, answer some questions on June 23rd, which is Tuesday. Tuesday. Now I think I have every day wrong, Beth. At 7 p.m. and it's being sponsored and streamed by the UJA Federation of New York and moderated by Kelly McCormick. So you can go on their website and find out how to register to be there.
And we are so excited because there's a new Broadway Baby in the world.
Oh, and you use your baby voice. Well, I'm going to keep up with the Yiddish and say Mazel Tov to Tommy Kail and Michelle Williams. They are together. They recently got married. And of course, Tommy Kail is the director of Hamilton and lots of great stuff. And Michelle Williams is an Oscar nominee, Tony nominee. And they work together on Fosse Verdon. And now they have a new production. They have a new child. We don't know if it's a boy or it's a girl. We don't know the name. We don't know the weight. We don't know where it happened, but we know it did. And this child was born yesterday. So
born yesterday.
Born yesterday. Yeah. So there you go.
I love it. Congratulations. That's awesome. But we have to get
good news today. Yeah.
Say it again.
Good news today.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, we had good news. Anytime Danny Burstein, come on. We were always waiting to say Danny Burstein won a trophy. And I know today's guest is probably super excited about that news as well. Hey, Caitlin. Thank you, Beth. Hey, Caitlin, why don't you introduce him?
Oh, gladly, you guys. Today, we have Mr. Tony Shalhoub here with us to round out a new week of Live at 5 Home Edition live right here on Facebook and YouTube. And today, we're going to talk all about Lincoln Center's at-home series called Broadway Fridays. And tomorrow, they're streaming Act 1, which starred Tony Shalhoub and earned him a Tony nom. So that's really exciting. You guys know who Tony Shalhoub is, okay? He won a Tony for his leading role in A Band's Visit. He has Tony nominations for his turns in Act 1, Golden Boy, and Conversations with My Father. He has 4 Emmys for being on television's Monk and The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, and he's been in a whole lot of stuff. We'd be here for a very long time if I listed all of his credits. So put all of your questions in the comments below, and please welcome Tony and Paul.
Tony Shalhoub, happy Friday. Happy Friday. I'm excited it's Friday.
I thought it was Monday. I'm sorry.
I mean, who can tell anymore? How you doing?
Very well. Thanks.
Danny Burstein.
I love Danny. And he and he was in Golden Boy, which
I know. It was fantastic. That production, I love that production so much.
Bartlett Sher directed. And it was a Lincoln Center production, but done on Broadway. And I just recently spoke to Danny because he had written that beautiful article about his experience with COVID, and he had a harrowing time in the hospital, of course. So he's just a favorite of mine. I love seeing him in everything and anything.
Yeah, I agree. I love seeing you in everything too, and you've done a lot. And she mentioned that Act 1 was one of your four Tony nominations, right? But now you're a Tony winner because Band's Visit brought you your. Oh, look, I just have some cute photos. There you are with Katrina Lenk. Did you get to see her in company? Probably not yet, right?
I didn't. I was going to go see the previews, and she said, "Oh, why don't you wait? Why don't you wait?" And then, of course, everything shut down. So
she said, "Why don't you wait a year or just wait, just give me time." Yeah. So Act 1, let's talk about this. I actually remembered I have this book because I had it on they sent this around to the press because they re-released Moss Hart, the very famous theater maker. And this is a play that you did based on his memoirs, kind of legendary memoirs. I remember when I was first getting into theater, everyone said well, you have to read Act 1, right? And then James Lapine made this beautiful play out of it, wrote and directed, and you got to star in it. And actually, here's a picture of you and Santino Fontana, another guy who is now a Tony winner. Yeah. That was from the Act 1. And then we also had, look at the same rail, different star, Andrea Martin. This was a really beautiful production.
It was a fantastic production. And I had the challenge of playing 3 different roles.
Right.
I played Moss Hart as in his middle age, and I played Moss Hart's father when Moss was a young boy and a young man. And then I also played George S. Kaufman. So I played these 3 characters in rotation, and it was really, really challenging because the set was enormous.
Huge.
Gigantic turntable with 3-4 different sides, and backstage was pandemonium, as you can imagine.
Yeah, I think I remember Santino telling me I think he wore a Fitbit one day so he could see how many steps he was getting in just doing that show.
Yeah, we were running, but it was exciting. It had a terrific cast, just an enormous cast. Yeah. And James wrote the adaptation and directed, and it was one of those kind of one of those things that stands out for me in my career.
Yeah, who can say that they got to play Kaufman and Hart You got to play Kaufman, Hart, and Hart. 2 Harts and 1 Kaufman.
Yeah, and interestingly, when I was in high school, one of the very first plays that I did, I think I was maybe a junior in high school, did a production of You Can't Take It With You, and which of course is a Kaufman Hart class. Yeah. And it's just so while I was working on this piece and rehearsing, and I flashed back to this, being a kid, 16, 17, and reading this play and seeing these names on the title page, right? And always kind of wonder, like, who are these guys? Where did these guys come from? What did they do? Just my kind of intro into theater. Then, flash forward, 35 years, and here I am playing these 2 characters. It was kind of a wonderful, a feeling of coming full circle.
You also you look really fantastic in period clothes. You're very good in period. Do you like doing period work?
I do, and I have the pleasure of doing that in Maisel too.
Yes. Here you are.
It was in the late 50s.
There's Abe Weissman. We love him.
Yes. Yeah, I do love that. I love the 40s, the 50s, all of that stuff. I like being transported into another time, and I especially, the great thing about Maisel was, of course, true of Act 1. No computers, no cell phones, none of that stuff.
Yeah, it's freeing, isn't it? It's very freeing. So what we're trying to say is that Act 1 was preserved. It was on TV. It was part of Lincoln Center's. They preserved sort of their greatest shows, and so now they're bringing out a bunch of these great plays, and we're going to stream them. So tomorrow night, anyone who wasn't there in 2014 when you were in the thick of this show 6 years ago.
Wow, was it 6 years? Oh my!
Yeah, it was 6 years ago, and you can watch it from the comfort of home. And this is a meaty place. I'm actually looking forward to watching it again at home. I'm gonna partake in it.
They did a terrific job with the filming of this piece, because it's done with a live audience. I think they filmed it over 2 nights, so you kind of get the best of 2 performances. And it wasn't just 1 camera set at the back of the theater, which is somehow how they do the archival filmings. This was, I think we had 7 or 8 cameras in the theater. There was even a techno crane. So they could do different angles and medium shots and close-ups. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. It's a play being done in real time with an audience, but with all that coverage.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Can we take it back for a minute? I found this photo online, and I just wanted to share it. This is you. This is your Broadway debut here.
Oh my God!
This is the female odd couple. I remember when it was a big deal that they were doing a female odd couple. That's Sally Struthers, Louis J. Stadlin, and Rita Moreno.
Yeah.
Tell me about that guy. That guy, what, he had been working up at ART for a while, right? And then finally got to the Broadway stage.
Yes, I had spent 4 seasons in Cambridge, Massachusetts, doing lots of different kinds of things at the ART. Then moved to New York. In one of my very first auditions was for the Female Odd Couple. We did a pre-Broadway tour and then came to Broadway, and it was really really exciting. We had a lot of time on the road to kind of work out the kinks, and it had all these wonderful character actresses, comedians in it. Jenny O'Hara, Marilyn Cooper, Mary Louise Wilson, and Kathleen Doyle, and Louis Stadlin and I played the counterpart to the Pigeon Sisters. We played the Costazuela brothers, these kind of proper Spanish gentlemen who lived upstairs, and we have this wonderful scene in the second act with the women.
Right. Did you feel like you started getting work? Like, do you feel like it was pretty easy for you to break into the New York theater world?
Well, I was lucky. I was very, very lucky. Because I think it was one of those situations of being in the right place at the right time. And these casting directors at this time who had put together this production for Neil Simon and Manny Eisenberg, they were they had been these 2 women who had been part of. They had been at Yale. They had been up at seeing things in regional theaters at ART. So they were familiar with my work, and again, it was just my good fortune to be kind of coming into the city at this particular moment.
Yeah. Well, you talked about Kaufman and Hart. What about Neil Simon? What was Neil Simon like? I grew up like just obsessed with every Neil Simon play I could find.
Well, this was, my first Neil Simon, my first stab at that kind of material. And he was there. I'll never forget because my initial audition was for Manny, and for Manny Eisenberg and the casting women, of course. And then I had my callback was for Neil, but Neil had thrown his back out at that particular week. So he was laid up in this hotel in Manhattan. And I mean, it was like one of these crazy things where my callback was, I don't know if it was the Sherry Netherland or the Pierre or one of those
fancy hotel,
one of those places near the park. And I had to go to this hotel, and there was Neil, kind of sort of sitting up in the bed. I was standing in this hotel room at the foot of his bed doing this audition, but it all worked out.
Yeah, it's almost like you're afraid to make him laugh. You don't want to put him in pain.
Yeah, please, don't hurt yourself. But he was fantastic. And I think, this scene, he wrote the play, he kind of did this female version of the original piece. So some of the dialogue was from the male version, but our stuff, he really had to kind of rebuild from the ground up. And I think because it was the new stuff, he kind of put a little extra focus on that. And he became obsessed with these 2 guys, and be in rehearsal with us, run out of the room, come back an hour later with new stuff for us. And,
oh, wow. Fun.
We sort of felt like the dialogue was sort of tailor-made for us. It was exciting.
I also have to ask you, because it's one of my favorite plays, the Heidi Chronicles. And I know I love your wife, Brooke Adams, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
I think she's fantastic. And I was a big fan of Key Exchange when I love Key Exchange.
That was a play and a movie, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. And you guys met doing Heidi Chronicles, right? Or did you already know each other? I love the idea of Scoop. You were Scoop and she was Heidi. And I love the idea that Scoop and Heidi made it work all these years later.
Exactly. Yes, I was part of the first. I was part of the first replacement cast of the original.
Yeah, you joined first. You joined before her, right?
Right, and I was doing it with Christine Lottie.
Right.
And then Christine left to do a film, I believe, and then Brooke came in as her replacement, and then here we are 30 years later with about to have a grandchild.
Oh, congratulations. That's fantastic. Do you miss this guy at all? Remember him? This guy.
I do. I miss him. I miss that music, and I miss that cast, and
Yeah.
that whole creative team.
Yeah. What was it like to win a Tony? After did you feel like you were on Danny? Look at someone like Danny Burstyn's been nominated 6 times. I mean, it was your 4th time around. What was it like to actually get up there?
It was surreal, mostly because I hadn't really done musicals prior to that,
right.
And so for me to, first of all, just to be in a musical and then to be nominated in a musical, it was confounding, kind of. I wanted to, in my acceptance speech, I wanted to say, well, I don't know why I wasted time, all those years doing plays when what you always really wanted was a Tony Shalhoub musical, all this time. But yeah, it was surreal and gratifying, and I was so proud of that production and so proud of all of that entire cast, and the play, the production, and the cast. We did well. I think we won 10 that season, right? 10.
It was huge. Yeah. It was fantastic, and you got to sit across Katrina Lenk every night as she sang that beautiful song.
Yeah. She's a force of nature. That one. She is just an extraordinary talent, and I think people are, they're going to be seeing a lot of her for many, many years, and her talent and her versatility is just boundless.
She's also good at a photo op. Both of you are, actually. That's adorable.
They always have to use those photos when you're sort of screwing around. And why didn't you do that? And Katrina just, the worst part of working with her and knowing her, it's just she's a lovely, lovely person, and that just makes it more irritating.
Yeah. So for fans of Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, of course, they know Katrina was on Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. That was a very important role. And you've done 3 seasons now. And did the 4th season start filming, or no? Did you guys get?
No. Well, we were supposed to be starting. It was always planned that we would start in early June of season 4. But of course, since all production's been shut down, then they pushed it, and then they pushed it again. And now there's some talk about possibly starting in September, although there's nothing definite. So we're just in a wait and see, mode now.
So you may have to quarantine with your cast. Isn't that what they're talking about might happen with TV and film production?
There's a lot of different kind of ideas and theories being tossed around, but we're all, of course, very anxious to get back to it because we finished. If I remember right, we finished filming season 3 around last September. Mm-hmm. So to be away from it for so long, it's a little maddening. We love doing it. We're a very close knit group. Yeah. We miss the crew, of course. We hope that the writers can get going soon, but we just don't know.
It seems like it'd be a fun group of people to quarantine with. I will say that.
It would.
Of course, I'm picturing you all quarantining in your period costumes, like it's like a flashback, a throwback quarantine.
Maybe we could all go up to that resort in the Catskills where we.
Yes.
That would be fun.
At the end of season 3, I didn't like how your daughter. I wasn't happy with her at the end of season 3. I don't know. She got dark on me. That last episode. She did something mean. She did something mean. Anyway, I love that show so much. What would you love to? Can you just see yourself just going with that character and with that story? And
you mean with Maisel?
With Maisel, yeah.
Oh, as long as they could keep it going, I would love it. It's sort of interesting with streaming shows because. Unlike network shows, you're not locked up for so much time and so many episodes all in one season. So it's a more manageable kind of schedule, it allows for other things, for plays or film, or for even for downtime. So yeah, I'm not sure how many seasons they have in mind, but I could keep it going.
Cool. I want to bring Caitlin in because I know there's a lot of fans with questions, and I'm hogging your time.
Okay, sure, no problem.
Yes, we have a lot of questions. So first up is Jamie wants to know, what are you most excited about being able to revisit Act 1 and a bunch of new people being able to experience this show?
Oh, well, so many things. First of all, just to kind of, revisit with my castmates. We had such a blast with this production, and it was such a big group, and we got very, very close. And I think the other thing is that I really hope that it kind of reintroduces people to this book, because this is the kind of it's the kind of material that, even if you have read it at one stage of your life, one stage of your career, it really it's worth revisiting, because it's timeless in a way. You see more things in it. The more you read it, it has something for everyone, whether you're in theater or not. It has to do with perseverance, with with this kind of never say die kind of attitude, and it's just got all these it's kind of a perfect American story, American, living out sort of the American dream, right. And it's just a beautiful piece of work that I just think is timeless.
Absolutely.
So I gotta say, a lot of people want to know your thoughts on how your character and Monk would be dealing with quarantine right now.
But didn't you did a thing on that, didn't you?
We did a thing that you can see on YouTube. It was a PSA for the Peacock, which is NBC's new streaming platform, which they launched recently, and they wanted to have some of their I think they're going to be airing Monk on that platform.
Cool.
And they wanted to have some of their old cast members come in and do things. So we did Mr. Monk in the Pandemic, a 5 or 6 minute piece of Monk struggling, let's say, with COVID. But it's a really it sort of goes to show that Monk was really not so wacky after all, and he was just ahead of his time.
Definitely. Ooh, this is a fun one. So Mike on YouTube wants to know if your portrayal of Abe is based on anyone you have actually known. He says it's one of the best comedic characters ever.
Well, that's a tribute to the writers. They just give me, they just wrap up these little gift packages for me with every script. And I guess part of it is I kind of channel my own father, who was, a dad coming up in this time period, and I guess it's just an amalgam of different characters from my youth, my various fathers of friends of mine, uncles, my grandfather. It's just little pieces of everybody in there.
Do you get to keep any of the costume items, or do you have any souvenirs of Abe yet?
Not yet, but I've got my eye on a few things.
You do? I'm sure.
It's like, I know I'm going to take that, and I'm going to take that.
Those kinds of things, yes.
I love it. All right, I think we can end on this one last question.
Oh, okay.
And Alexandra says, "Hi, Tony. You're such an esteemed stage and screen actor. What is one lesson that your success has taught you? Greetings from London."
Wow, one lesson my success has taught me. Well, I guess, this is just, it's really just a matter of not taking yourself too seriously, not assuming anything. The business is tricky. The business is volatile. the business is a roller coaster, a never-ending roller coaster, and one must not lose sight of that. And I say that by way of saying you must when you're on the upper part of the roller coaster, not to become too complacent or cocky, and when you're on the descent, not to fall into despair and lose heart. That's really the most valuable lesson, I think.
And how have you been during the last few months of this isolation and sitting in place and sheltering and quarantine?
Well, at first it was I did test positive for the virus back in early March.
Okay.
So, but it was before there was a lot of information out there about it, and there was a lot of fear and some misinformation. But luckily it wasn't so severe that I had to be hospitalized. But it did last for a few weeks, and it was incredibly, challenging. But my wife and I, we both got it, and we sort of had to take care of each other.
Right.
And so, we've been trying to just stay in touch with friends, stay in touch with family. I find it's really been helpful for me to not focus too much on the news, on the national news, and how kind of upsetting that can be. Right. But I've been really trying to reach out because I have family and friends all over the country. And so I try to really get from them, like, what's going on, what's going on there locally.
Right.
What's the kind of the feeling and because I really want to know, it's really about what's happening on the local level that I think is key, for us to get through this and to figure out what's really going on. Sometimes we get a little distracted and lost with the noise on the news from the national level. But if we just keep in touch with everybody, I think it's just more helpful for me.
Absolutely. There's a lot of noise out there.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that much, right, Beth?
Oh, yes.
Beth, what's your favorite Tony Shalhoub performance? I know you've seen them all.
You mean besides Act One?
Hey, this one right now.
I don't know, but I'm wondering where else you had sticky fingers, Ms. Shalhoub, taking pieces of your costume or sets or something from what you worked on.
Oh my. Yeah, I'm not gonna tell you that.
Okay, that's fair.
Sometimes they don't notice it's gone, I'm sure.
Sometimes
there you go.
Sometimes it's so you just have to buy them. You just have to.
Right.
Love it.
Well, everyone needs to check out Act One. It's tomorrow night on Lincoln Center's YouTube and Facebook, and it's fantastic. It's a really beautiful play, and everyone's going to be like, "This play needs to come back," because it's really great. And I think everyone's going to. I can't wait to see it again. I'm super excited. Thank you so much for being here, Tony. We hope to see you in person soon enough. Hey, Caitlin, why don't you take us out?
Thank you guys so much for tuning in for a very fun episode of Live at 5 Home Edition. You can follow along where we get your podcast by searching for #Live at 5 and hitting that subscribe button. Have a great weekend. Stay 6 feet away from each other. Wear a mask. And we'll see you on Monday. We talk to Condola Rashad all about her new music career.